Here at Lady Farmer, we talk about so many different aspects of slow and sustainable living, a subject matter that can at times feel confusing, overwhelming, even misleading. And that's why a few years ago, we set out to write a book that might be a guide for those seeking a life of beauty, simplicity, and sustainability.
We're thrilled to be able to offer you our own small guide for cultivating slow living, sustainable simplicity close to home, available in our online marketplace. In the book, we've woven an easy-to-digest narrative of stories, recipes, tips, resources, ideas, and reflection. This collection of essays and resources will guide you to think about your own relationship to the planet, what you eat, what you wear, and how you live a sustainable lifestyle. It also contains a 21-day slow living challenge of daily thought exercises to lead you in the process.
For you Good Dirt listeners, we are offering free shipping of this wonderful little book with the code TheGoodDirt in our online marketplace. So use the code TheGoodDirt, TheGoodDirt at checkout when you go to purchase your copy of the Lady Farmer Guide to Slow Living in our online marketplace for free shipping. That's The Good Dirt at the Lady Farmer online marketplace for free shipping on the Lady Farmer Guide to Slow Living. We hope you enjoy it.
Thanks, everybody.
It speaks to a desire that we all have within us, I think, to live more simply and live more beautifully. And we're so attracted to it because we have our own sense of lack in those ways, or we're so overwhelmed by what we have in our real lives. And so we're so drawn to it. And I think that's kind of where we have to start this whole discussion about consumerism and consumption, is that you wouldn't consume something if you felt full and satiated.
You're listening to the Good Dirt Podcast. This is a place where we dig into the nitty-gritty of sustainable living through food, fashion, and lifestyle.
And we're your hosts, Mary and Emma Kingsley, the mother and daughter founder team of Lady Farmer. We're sowing seeds of slow living through our community platform, events, and online marketplace.
We started this podcast as a means to share the wealth of information and quality conversations that we're having in our world as we dream up and deliver ways for each of us to live into the new paradigm, one that is regenerative, balanced, and whole.
We want to put the microphone in front of the voices that need to be heard the most right now. The farmers, the dreamers, the designers, and the doers.
So come cultivate a better world with us. We're so glad you're here. Now, let's dig in.
So it's been a while since we were here recording, and we've been on kind of a break, and we're kind of on the other side of a very big event.
Yeah, true. So for those who might not know, I did have a baby. And he was born at the end of July, and he's just the best. He's so sweet, and he's such a good baby, and we've just had so much fun. And yeah, it has been a huge event that is still unfolding, and I guess will be unfolding for the rest of my life. And thank you for hanging around all summer. If you've been listening, welcome. If you're just here, if you are a regular listener, you'll probably notice that we definitely weren't as present, recording our intros every single week. My mom definitely stepped in and did a lot. Thank you, Mom. But for now, we wanted to record something fresh for you guys. And we're also thinking about moving forward, how we want to proceed now that there's this third person here. So more on that later, more on that to come. But we just really wanted to touch back in on this intro to slow living topic series that we were doing, and the topic of consumerism, conscious consumerism. And you had found this article, Mom, from a few weeks ago from The Good Trade, which is a newsletter that we love if you don't already get it, about underconsumption. And I, being a new mom and being awake in the middle of the night a lot, that's an excuse. I was doing it anyways on TikTok way too much, and have seen also this trend of underconsumption on TikTok. So that's what we're talking about here today. This idea of underconsumption and conscious consumerism and how it falls into slow living in Lady Farmer land and how we think about that.
just to backtrack a little bit, when we left off with part 2 of this Intro to Slow Living series, we left you with the promise that part 3 we would be discussing the consumer side of slow living, which is something, we've been talking about this for 8 years now. Like we said in this intro series, we're sort of bringing it all back around and talking about these things through the lens of where we are now with Lady Farmer, years later, experienced many interviews, reading many books, talking to lots of people, living our own lives and trying to figure it out. And so here we are, kind of back to the basics. Yeah. And that's when I ran across this article and I thought, aha, underconsumption. Now, I had not run across that term yet. So I thought this was really interesting entree into the discussion. You said you had been seeing this term.
Yes, because I'm on TikTok, therefore I see things.
Just kidding. This is not the first time I've said, "Hey, have you heard of this?" And you go like, "Yeah."
Half weeks ago. No, I'm just kidding. I'm excited to get into this article, but I also, before we start, I wanted to, there's like so much here. Here's the thing with these internet trends.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about aesthetic. Yeah, and the way that we're talking about consuming media. We're talking about consuming things, and specifically this discussion based on this article comes from a media trend. So we're consuming media. And on media, everything in media is a performance. The idea, I'm talking about this like trad wife, cottagecore, simple life ideal that probably visually Lady Farmer as a brand probably falls towards, although for lots of reasons that we can also get into this episode or another episode. I don't want to be totally lumped in with all of that. And then there's this underconsumption that's kind of, I think, another word in the visual language for minimalism or whatever it is. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, somebody's selling something to you.
Yeah.
So that's what's so tricky about it. It speaks to a desire that we all have within us, I think, to live more simply and live more beautifully. And we're so attracted to it because we have our own sense of lack in those ways, or we're so overwhelmed by what we have in our real lives. And so we're so drawn to it. And I think that's kind of where we have to start this whole discussion about consumerism and consumption, is that you wouldn't consume something if you felt full and satiated. So,
yeah, I think that lends itself to pointing out a quote directly from this article from The Good Trade. And it says, slow living was co-opted to encourage buying more in a minimalist aesthetic rather than engaging in the act of minimalism itself. So what I think what this quote is saying is that the lifestyle, the slow living lifestyle, and then, as this pertains to underconsumption, we'll talk more about how that is defined later, becomes a visual, just to your point, and it becomes something you have to buy into. And we want to remind people that living sustainably, slow living, does not mean you have to buy a bunch of things to support this lifestyle. It means actually quite the opposite. And so I think when we're talking about consumption of media and making decisions and being conscious about how we really want to live our lives and how we want to feel every day, this is a super, super important distinction to make. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, in case we didn't say it at the top, underconsumption would be, in this article, it's a reaction, the theme or the trend is a reaction to overconsumption. And the specific trend on social media, on TikTok, is in reaction to the trope of the haul, or like, here's all these things that I have. Here's my bathroom with my counters of rows and rows of Sephora products because I've got all this stuff at Sephora or what have you. And so this trend of underconsumption is, here's a video of my regular bathroom sink with with my toothpaste tube that's like almost empty. And here's my pants with a hole in the knee, and here's my boots that I've had for 10 years. So that's the trend, just so that we establish that.
But the term underconsumption sort of gave me a little pause because, I mean, I get it. I get what they're talking about. And I think what you're saying is something that's related to what's being presented on social media. But the term itself, I think, is a little misleading or misguided. And I don't know who coined it, or this article says the term was coined in July 2024. I don't know
which I'm not sure about that either, because I feel like I was seeing these videos before then.
Yeah, and what's the context in which this was coined?
Another word that's in this family is like de-influencing. There's people that are on social media as like de-influencers that are like, don't buy this.
Yeah, right. Okay, so but anyway, what I was getting to is that term underconsumption. It's kind of odd because if you're using all your toothpaste, to your point, and you're mending your jeans and all these things that we always talk about, you're not underconsuming. You're consuming appropriately.
Yeah.
Like
that's interesting.
if you apply this to food, if you are overeating and you suddenly start eating, just what your body needs to get you going and to be healthy, that's not under eating. See what I'm saying?
I'm glad you said that, because I think that the issue here is that we're existing in this context where everything is framed because we're on our phones all day and we're consuming media all day. There has to be like a word for everything, or like a trend, or like it has to fit into a trending audio, or like the language is so rapidly changing and moving so quickly, and it's happening little bite-sized bits that things are just getting like slapped with labels on, and there's like very little nuanced conversation happening. So anyways, that's why we're here, because we can sort of break this stuff open. And I guess with that being said, let's go back to slow living and what we think about consumerism.
So I think it begins with the fact that we say so often, we can't ditch these systems. We can't escape them totally. The systems of, food, clothing, all the items we use all the time, all the things we buy because we need. We're not set up this way. Very few of us are out there making our own tools and doing our own spoons and, making all of our own clothes and growing all of our food. So here we are. We want to embrace a slow living lifestyle, but we live in a consumer society. We live in a consumer economy. We live in a highly industrialized system where everything is mass produced, and we have to trade money for most of the things we need, except in very limited instances. So where are we in all of that, and how can we find our balance there? How can we stay grounded?
It's really interesting that you are coming at it like that, because you're talking about like our needs, like toothpaste and tools and things like that, and food. I came into this conversation really thinking about consumerism as like buying things you like don't need.
I think it's all
whether
of
it be but I guess my point is that, like I said at the beginning, the reason we are attracted to all of these different aesthetics is because they illustrate a feeling that we want, whatever that feeling is, which is I think what you were getting at.
Mm-hmm.
Beauty, wholesomeness, simplicity. And then that just like strikes this chord of the lack that we feel within ourselves. And then the only way that we know to like access that or act upon it is like, oh, what is that person selling in this video, overtly or covertly? And I guess I need to buy that so that I can have that thing.
Yeah, that goes into the quote I just read about the slow living was co-opted by buying into an aesthetic rather than the slow living itself, or the practice of slow living and all that entails. It's not that you shouldn't buy anything you desire, but then it very, very quickly gets into trying to buy a feeling, trying to buy a lifestyle that really can't be bought. And so, as we say, it has to do with observation, discernment, and observing yourself and your own decisions.
It starts from within.
It does. Yes. Again.
Yeah. So I would say, I mean, we all have feelings of lack in various areas. So I would say start with that. Start with like, if you feel the need to buy something, or you want something, or you're attracted to something, I think starting from a place of, what about that am I attracted to? What about that do I like? And why do I like it? And why do I feel like I need it? And why do I feel like I don't have it already? And then maybe that can lead you to a place of, is there anything that I can do to try to get that before I have to buy that thing? So taking our example, I'll just use like the biggest, tropiest trope in the slow living land, which is the jars on the open shelves in the woodsy kitchen, right? So you see that and you're like, oh, I love the kitchen with the jars and the woodsy kitchen. And you might think, I have to move to the woods and be a little elf fairy and do all this stuff, or I need to buy those jars, or I need to buy a bunch of bulk tea to put those in those jars, stuff like that. You don't need to like buy anything. You also probably already have it, or a version of the thing in some way, or you can probably make it or find it or trade for it. And I was just talking about this with a friend today, actually. It's so much more satisfying to creatively come up with these things in ways besides buying them, whether it's making or finding, or if anyone's ever like shopped their house for like, if you want like a piece of furniture in one spot and you're like,
Oh, I love that.
let me walk around and see what I already have. It's just so much more satisfying because, as we all know, we think that we can buy a certain feeling, but we can't. And that's all I have to say about that.
What I think would be fun right now is if you and I talk about some of our own personal vulnerabilities when it comes.
Oh yeah, things that we buy.
Well,
I have so many. I'm ready.
Well, yeah, I'll say vulnerabilities, because things we're tempted to buy, or that we do buy, or just things that get our attention. And it's so funny you bring up the jar thing, because
are you buying jars? Are you buying jars again, Mom?
Heck no. But I was. Well, at one point, yes, I acquired a lot of jars, and then I started filling them up, and I would order things in bulk, and I would fill them up, and I would line them up, and I loved the way it looked. I never ever need to buy another jar. I have plenty. I had a vulnerability around creating that aesthetic, the visual aesthetic, the farmhouse with the open shelving and the jars. And
you did it.
I did it.
Did it solve all your problems?
No. It didn't solve.
Did it turn you into the person you always wanted to be?
I'm still me. And also, I might be really vulnerable in the area of skincare, because I'm probably always looking for that perfect product, the one that's going to be the answer and feel great and make my skin feel wonderful and look great and all of that. So what's something for you that you're really vulnerable to in terms of purchasing that you think you need, but maybe go ahead.
I really have an addiction to slow fashion. It's a real problem. And it's a real problem because it's so easy to justify. Oh, it's good quality. I'm investing in it. I want to support the creators. And it's true. And I'm being a little bit dramatic. There are worse problems to have. And luckily, the price point of slow fashion is such that you do have to temper yourself a little bit. It does make it hard to truly overconsume slow fashion. But what I will say is that I am impulsive about it. So a great example is I love these clogs. They're made in San Francisco, and they're made by hand, all women staff, all women company. It's Briar clogs. I'll shout it out. They're so beautiful. And I wore a pair at my wedding. Like, that's how special these shoes are. I have like 3 pairs of them that I've bought over the years. And it's like, I don't need 3 pairs of these. And I still open the emails and I feel like I need to buy another pair, and they're just all so beautiful. That's just a very specific example of a slow fashion thing that I have too much of. I don't wear all 3 pairs of these clogs all the time. So that's one thing. And then the other is, this one's really good because I can trace it directly to a sense of lack. So I love sewing, and I love sewing clothes, specifically sewing garments. I've only successfully sewn like a couple of garments, but I have this idea in my head that I sew clothes, even though I never give myself the time to actually sit down and do it because probably I'm like too busy on TikTok or something. I don't know. Just kidding. I'm too busy doing a lot of things, but I want to be the person who sews clothes. So
Yeah.
here's what I do. I buy a lot of patterns.
Mm.
So, like, probably once a month, I buy a cool pattern that I'll see. So, I have like a stack of patterns in my closet. I want to like not feel like I have to buy these slow fashion clothes. I want to make them. So, instead of doing the thing that's going to make me feel like I have agency and I can like make my own stuff, I buy the thing. And then and then that somehow makes me feel like I've done something, but I really haven't.
Those are good. So I have a vulnerability with, of all things, gardening products and supplies. Now, you would think, isn't that like, being close to the earth and growing things and growing herbs and growing your own food? Yes, but there's a lot of consumerism around gardening. And I'm very vulnerable to buying plants and to buying supplies and things I think I need to make my garden more beautiful. And then, so I buy these things, and then I realize that I end up with a whole lot of waste in that. And so, I'm working on that. I'm really working on doing more with less, because, in terms of growing things, you really don't need much at all. You need really very, very little, but the marketplace has us thinking that you need all these things.
Such an easy trap to fall into. You're just pummeled, especially if you're on social media a lot. You're pummeled with ads about that a lot. Oh, and then a really obvious one as a new mom,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so much in the world of like things you need for your kids, and gosh, they know you really well.
I just imagine the new parent thing is endless. It's just endless.
Truly.
And you're a new parent, so you don't really know what you're going to need so much.
Mhm.
And you see a lot of things and you're excited about having a baby, and things are cute. And so, yeah, I imagine that's a real trap. So how have you handled that?
To be honest, I've bought a lot of it. We'll just go
Well,
there.
I will. So far, the baby's wardrobe is primarily hand-me-downs, and you've done a good job with that. Not buying tons
Yeah,
of
I
clothes.
really haven't bought a lot of clothes. There's so many clothes,
Yeah,
kids clothes,
yeah,
and
and the hand-me-downs are.
kids consignment's super fun. So yeah, and it's really it's so hard to buy stuff new and full price because it's not as expensive because it's literally smaller, but they just grow out of it so fast. And then also I would say just because I'm hyper aware, I'm like super aware of all this, so I do like sort of catching myself and like catching the ads and being like, what are they trying to sell me? Like what? I don't know.
Well, that's what
I admit that I buy a lot of things, but I feel like I'm pretty self-aware about it.
I mean, that's why we talk
Mhm.
about it so much. We want everybody to look at these ads and go, and also be aware that this is not like when I was growing up and you're sitting there watching a TV show, you're watching Andy Griffith at 4:30 in the afternoon and a Campbell's soup commercial comes on or whatever. It's not like that. It's like what you're looking at has been tailored to you and
Yeah, and the
your
people that you're
preferences.
seeing with their things in their house are people that are just like you, and so it plays this comparison game
So
that
it is really, really tricky. And so to have that hyper vigilance about the things you're seeing in the advertising. And also, this is something I wanted to bring up, that in the, say, 15 years or so since social media has been a big thing, it started out, as I remember, Facebook was a way to keep up with your friends and post cute pictures of your cat and all that stuff. But now Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that is primarily advertisements. It's just like no different from, in 1969 when the Sears catalog would come in the mail and we would all huddle around and look at it and dream of things we wanted to have. It's just a different form now. And it's unconscious. You don't realize that you are being targeted to buy something. That's what's really insidious about it. So when you see something you think you want to buy, just be aware that what you're seeing has been custom chosen for you. And yeah.
try to take note of the sense of lack that you have within yourself. I mean, obviously that doesn't work every time, because if you lack toothpaste, you're going to need more toothpaste.
Well,
But
that goes back to
but
our
if there's a deeper right, if there's a deeper sense of lack in, if it's more of definitely an aesthetic or a lifestyle thing, certainly buying a thing isn't going to achieve a lifestyle. If that's helpful to hear. I don't know. It seems obvious, but I feel like I even need to hear that. So I'll just say it again. Buying something, buying an item is not going to achieve a lifestyle. Okay.
Let me put it this way, or add this to what you said. You can achieve the lifestyle without buying stuff. Lifestyle is within your grasp.
Yes.
Without
Lifestyle is within you.
Yes. And then, like we said in the beginning, it comes from within. So one more area of vulnerability I think would be appropriate to cover, and that is like digital consumption of all the courses and the information and all of those things that we see, and you go, I want to know more about this, and so you buy this, and I want to know more about this, and you buy this, and a lot of it's really, really great stuff. And I've really consumed a lot of really valuable information on the internet over the years. I'm also aware of how much of it there is right now, and the need to be super discerning about that. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I would agree. And just be aware of, there's really specific systems in place to sell you things in that area, like the online course area. There's this thing called a pipeline and a funnel. Like, if you're not aware of it, like a marketing funnel. And hopefully we're getting more aware of it now, where it's, they get your email and then they send you the emails, and then, they think about how to get you to move to the next step and the next step and the next step, and then you've bought the course that'll change your life. But then guess what? You have the course and you have to do it. So yeah, I think it's the exact same thing, actually, because you buy it thinking that it's gonna fix everything, and it might, if you're in the right mindset and you really do it and everything. But with buying the pair of clogs that's gonna get you that lifestyle, it's like, are you gonna wear them every day? Do you need them to have the lifestyle? Are you gonna do it? And same with the online course, because a lot of it is pre-recorded and do it on your own, and then guess what? It's really hard to do on your own. So
I think
just taking all of that into account.
And I'm speaking from personal experience here. I think if there's something that you want to solve in your life, or an itch you want to scratch, or something you want to delve into, very tempting and very easy to feel like if you're purchasing something towards that, then you're actually moving towards that goal. And you make the purchase, but that hasn't moved you. You still have to do the thing. So I guess what I'm saying is there is a temptation to think that the purchase itself is going to help you.
And there's a really good sales tactic that even uses that's saying, invest in this, invest in yourself. If you don't invest in this, you'll never do it.
Right.
So just be careful of that tactic too. I mean, sometimes it's true, obviously, but.
Yeah, and I've taken some great courses. I have. A lot of them I've bought, and they have sat there. And I've thought, why did I do this? So it's just something, more awareness, more paying attention, more vigilance, more observation of our motivations and our feelings and what we really want, need, etc. So maybe we can move on to...
Yeah, I think we should wrap it up. I think we've said everything.
Takeaways. Think about.
Okay, so my thoughts are, this has been really fun. And I think that we've said everything that we wanted to say. And I think that the main takeaway here is that this idea of underconsumption, as it was outlined in this article, is relating directly to this online trend, this visual trend, this aesthetic, and thinking about slow living and the role that consumerism plays into slow living. Just remember that we need to remove this idea of performing a visual picture of the thing, acting the thing out. Remove that from the reality of the thing, because I think now in this culture, there's living the life, and then there's seeing the thing, and then there's being sold the thing. And so just sort of parsing those things out and remembering that it's not about an aesthetic, and it's not about what it looks like. It's definitely more about how it feels. And you have a lot more agency, I think, than you think you do. And it's just so easy to feel like we can buy our way into feeling a different way. And that's usually not the case.
Right. And, just to like wrap a few things up, it's paying attention to your own consumer habits and claiming your own power in making the decisions, understanding why you're making the decisions, and sure, buy the thing you want. Just understand why you're doing it. Then also the point we were making about understanding how social media has changed over the years from a communication and sharing platform to basically an advertising platform that's going for you and your lifestyle and your desires, and they know who you are and what you want, and these things are targeted to you. That's really important to understand. And then just really, again, circling back to the idea of underconsumption as a thing, the basics, we might argue that the basics of underconsumption are really integral to the principles of slow living. And basically, it means choosing to buy less or to buy consciously for all the reasons which we've talked about. And that if you modify your consumer behavior to stem overconsumption, which we know is a thing, and you have what you need and even what you desire, then it's not under anything. It's appropriate consumption. It's necessary consumption. It's the consumption that helps you attain the way you want to live. So, having said all of that, that's kind of a lot, huh? You think?
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into consumerism, and we would love to hear what you think. You can find us on Substack. It's The Almanac by Lady Farmer on Substack, linked in the show notes. And we'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. You can comment directly there. You can also email us at thegooddirtpodcast@gmail.com, and you can always call us and leave a voicemail. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in, calling in, and spreading the good dirt. We love hearing from you. You can reach our listener voicemail at 443-459-1950. That's 443-459-1950. You can find this number in our show notes and in our Instagram profile.
This show is produced by Lady Farmer, a slow living lifestyle community, and the original music is composed and performed by John Kingsley.
For more from Lady Farmer, follow us on Instagram at WeAreLadyFarmer. That's We Are Lady Farmer. Or join us online at www.ladyfarmer.com. We'll see you next time on The Good Dirt.
Goodbye.